The heroic Sith raid has to be the best PvE content that CG has ever put out for Galaxy of Heroes. When it came out, it was almost impossible to beat. I had so much enjoyment out of this raid. In fact, my greatest video was a video beating this raid using Commander Ahsoka Tano. One thing has always bothered me though. I always wanted to see just how high we could push that damage. What could be achieved if we really focused on doing the most possible damage we could to the Triumvirate. I was confident that we had the kits, we had the mods and the relic levels. There's just one question. Can we bring the Triumvirate to their knees? Can we break 1 billion damage in a single hit? The JMK solo of the heroic Sith raid is already well understood, and I take no small amount of pride in thinking that I originally theorycrafted this team. However, if I was to break 1 billion damage, I was going to have to make some changes. So it was back to the drawing board. So I spent some time looking over the mechanics of the Sith raid, and eureka! An idea finally hit me. Previously, I'd always been using Wat Tambul with JTR to try and maintain a high evasion tank. But what if we took some risks? Some of the older Sith raid teams used to utilize P3 and standalone to deal significant amounts of damage. The problem was I needed more attackers in the squad to really benefit from the offense boost. So the idea started to form in my mind. What if we lose Wat Tambul and JTR and go for a full light side team? We could still have General Kenobi as a taunting tank, and then we could throw in one more light side attacker to give some additional offense to our Commander Ahsoka Tano when she goes into standalone. But who would be that attacker? Who would fit the bill? Commander Ahsoka Tano does special damage, so I wanted to get a character that had special offense boosts. I wanted a character with high base offense, and obviously they had to be an attacker. And it hit me like the sound of an oncoming train. SWGOH. The redeemed Kylo Ren has sky-high special offense stats, and the irony is not lost on me at all that when we first got him he was dealing no damage, to now him being a pivotal part of this team to breaking 1 billion damage. The team was set. I then set about modding JMK and Ben SWGOH for as much offense as physically possible, on the arrows and the triangles. Commander Ahsoka Tano herself was a bit of a special case. I changed her up for a crit damage set with offense on the arrow and crit damage on the triangle. She's always going to crit when she lands that force leap, and I figured maxing out the crit damage with as much offense as possible was the way to go. The mods were decided upon. Phase 1 begins. I knew immediately I had to play this a little bit different to the standard lineup. In order to maximize the amount of damage I was going to get from Commander Ahsoka Tano's Force Leap, I had to make sure that I did not use Force Leap at all until we got to Phase 3 against Traya. The problem was, now that I didn't have JTR as an unavoidable, undispellable taunting tank, how was I going to survive in Rage? One misplayed move, one false step, or one poor bit of RNG from Nihilus could mean the end of this run very, very quickly. I set about passing Shien between C-3PO and JMK and tried to reach my ultimates as fast as possible. When I had the capacity, I was using C-3PO's mass assist on JMK against the side adds. This would increase his mastery even further to put the damage output that I need high enough to clear this section of the raid before we fall to Nihilus's damage output. I then had to take a calculated risk before Nihilus's first annihilate. Nihilus was about to take a turn. I decided to pass over to JMK to boost his mastery further, before going for someone else with Unbreakable Will. It was all going well. Ben Solo was getting armor shreds on Nihilus, reducing his defense to make my attacks do more damage. There was one problem though. We'd only done a small amount of damage, and Nihilus was over halfway to Enrage. Was I really going to be able to survive through this phase? With only 3 turns to Enrage, it hit me. If I was going to keep GK alive, I was going to have to make sure that I had damage immunity on him almost permanently. Once we hit Enrage, I had to constantly be calling C-3PO in to assist to reduce the cooldowns on my JMK so that I could keep damage immunity on General Kenobi. And that's when I slipped up. I thought I could force Nihilus to take another turn before GK lost his damage immunity and miscalculated. GK now had heal immunity. I kept my cool and continued. Our damage was starting to ramp and there was only about 18% left of the phase. I wanted to go into phase 2 with a full bar of ultimate and a lot of my abilities off cooldown. We deal the death blow to Nihilus. Phase 2 is significantly easier than Phase 1. The only thing we had to worry about was Darth Sion's damage. But thanks to Ben Solo, we were able to stack up lots of armor shred very quickly, and I was surprised at how easily this phase fell. It didn't take long at all for JMK to start dealing well over 1,000,000 points of damage a hit. I continued to call Mass Assist on the ads when I had the chance, and raised JMK's mastery at every turn. Once Sion drops below 50% of his max health, he loses most of his armor. I'm now starting to ramp damage at an alarming pace. With 5 turns before Darth Sion hits Enrage, I was confident that I could kill him before we ever got to that point. The key point now was to try and call as many assists on characters with Shien as possible to ramp up the damage on Force Leap. We proceeded to chew through Sion like a knife through hot butter. With still 2 turns until he hit Enrage, we head off into P3, the most important phase of this attempt. There were a few things to consider in this phase. I wanted to try and ramp some additional offense on Ben Solo by getting him to kill the Saber ads with his AoE. This would grant me more ultimate offense over to Cat when we eventually go into standalone. But of course, I wasn't going to immediately use standalone and Force Leap against Traya, even though we know for certain she would die at this point. I wanted to try and drag out this phase as long as possible to really give me the best shot at breaking that damage limit. We work away on Traya, and whenever we have the opportunity to kill the Sabers, we were trying to kill them with Ben Solo's AoE to keep on ramping his offense. At this point, I ignored calling in C-3PO with anybody else and just focused on passing additional mastery from JMK over to Commander Ahsoka Tano to try and raise her offense as high as possible. Every time JMK targets an ally with one of his special abilities, he's actually going to be passing 20% of his current mastery to them. Commander Ahsoka Tano has damage and crit damage on her mastery, so each time I target her, she's going to be dealing more and more damage. Similarly, because her mastery is raising, whenever she Shiens back over to JMK, he is going to be gaining 10% of her mastery, so they end up boosting each other very quickly. Traya is, of course, in this phase, stacking bonds of weakness, which basically means the more moves I do, the more damage I deal to myself. I'm not worried though. I'm confident that we can break through this and kill her before it deals any critical damage. With Ben Solo now in red health and near death, I know that the time has come. I get one final armor shred off on him, killing 2 additional sabers, which is stacking his offense by an additional 20% and putting armor shred on Traya. I call in Commander Ahsoka Tano one final time with JMK. It's now time to stand alone. The moment of truth is now upon us. Did I do enough? Are we going to break 1 billion damage? And there we have it. Mission accomplished. 1,052,876,928 points of damage in one hit. Nearly enough to kill this raid 10 times over. I finally accomplished a goal that I've been trying to achieve for a long time, and the satisfaction is immense. I challenge anybody in this video to try and break that damage. Try to go into the Sith Raid and top out over my 1.052 billion damage hit. I'd love to see it. Link it down in the comments down below. The rest of the raid, as we know, is really no great shakes. We are quite easily able to clear through Treya's final phase. Given her performance in this raid, I thought it was only fitting that we let Commander Ahsoka Tano take out Treya finally. So we ruin Sion's plans, we destroy Nihilus, and Treya takes one final leap. And there we have it, ladies and gentlebeans, 1.148 billion damage from our girl Commander Ahsoka Tano alone. Please let me know in the comment section down below, can you top that score? And even if you can't, I'll see you all in the next video.